Hello and welcome to the Sky Blue Times YouTube channel. Today I wanted to talk about Erling Haaland, his incredible form to start the season. He's now scored 51 goals in 46 appearances for the Norway national team. He's got 19 goals and 3 assists in his last 10 matches between club and country. He's now scored in 22 out of 23 stadiums he's played at in the Premier League, only missing Anfield, which you have the opportunity later this season to score at. That is the highest ratio, 96%, of any player in the Premier League that has played at more than one ground. So, really, to start the season, Erling Haaland is in arguably the best form of his City career. We'll delve into some of the numbers, talk about some of the goals, and have a little bit of a kind of preview on what we can expect for the rest of the season, which the early kind of signs of what we've seen from everything, I know small sample size and so on, this looks like the new level from Erling Haaland rather than it has been the kind of form of him in this period. And similar to when we were talking about the kind of performances we've seen from Phil Foden playing more centrally in midfield, the performances of Jeremy Doku moving across the pitch, playing inside. With all these players, this looks like the new level from them. We've seen it in so many games back to back. It doesn't look like that kind of rich vein of form that you think is going to completely drop off. And this kind of determined performances from Erling Haaland, the leadership he's shown on the pitch, does look like the player he will be for years to come. Now, to really kind of hammer home the point with the international goals, this is a graphic by The Athletic. You can see how quickly Erling Haaland has reached 50 goals in comparison to Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Two players that, as you can see, early years didn't shoot up with the goals in comparison to Erling Haaland. And you look at Lionel Messi, this area here, just how much the rate kind of explodes. The same with Cristiano Ronaldo later into their career. Erling Haaland, as soon as he's made his way into the national team, has hit the ground running, scoring goals, similar to what we've seen in the Premier League and similar to what we've seen in the Champions League. So that really is really is impressive for him to pull off. Somebody that will no doubt score some of the most goals in the history of international football. Now, this is all of his touches in the Premier League this season. When I was looking at some of the numbers, so he's averaging 24.2 touches of the ball per 90. That's the third lowest in the Premier League this season of all players to play at least 300 minutes. So that is behind Isidore that plays for Sunderland, who's on 18.5 touches per 90. And then Chris Wood that plays for Nottingham Forest, 21.1. Players you'd expect to not have many touches anyway. But then you're looking further into that, we look at passes. So Erling Haaland completes 8.33 passes per 90 compared to the rest of the players in the Premier League. Players that have only played 690s or more. Gyökeres and Mateta, the only two players to have completed less passes than Erling Haaland. He ranks 10th among centre forwards and wingers in the Premier League this season for total distance covered with 66.3 kilometres, and he's 7th for pressure applied. So even though he's somebody that is getting a lot less the ball, not completing as many passes, having as many touches, what we really need to focus on, particularly when you're talking about centre forwards with strikers, is these touches in the box. That's where it's going to really count. How efficient they are with their movement off the ball, arriving into that zone, being able to take lots and lots of shots, having a variety of their finishes, and getting a volume of touches and shots inside the box off, rather than looking for a striker that's always involved. There are definitely different profiles of strikers that do add more to their game in terms of being more creative. You think about somebody like Benzema for Real Madrid and France, but the main kind of thing you are looking for these strikers is their involvement in the penalty area above all else. Now, 69.6% of Haaland's touches this season have come under high pressure, so that means he has an opponent within 2 metres of him. So that tells you just how much pressure Haaland's under. The players, the defenders that are in and around him, despite where he is playing on the pitch. You could definitely see the start of the season. I think he's made more of a conscious effort to space himself between defenders, give them a bit of a question mark on, do I mark this guy? Do I push up and go between the lines to go coast to Erling Haaland? Do I not? Moving around the pitch between different centre-backs and just having that space for when he does make these runs and this kind of quick double movement as well. I think he's doing that really, really well this season compared to previous seasons, particularly last season. It felt like he was the guy pinned high against the centre-back to push them back, didn't really have any room whatsoever, and anything that went into him was already a grapple straight away. Defenders get really tight, similar to like how you see Ruben Diaz get really, really tight to opposition strikers. Felt like Erling Haaland was in those situations every single time, whereas now this season we're not seeing him wrestling centre-backs as much. The centre-backs are having to jump a lot more to get tight to him. And so, yeah, I think that kind of all-around game, as well as just intelligence and where he's positioned himself, has improved a lot coming into this season. When I was looking up, so Jack Grealish is the only player that's had more touches inside the opposition box while under high pressure than Erling Haaland. So that really does speak volumes about how involved Erling Haaland is in the final third, in the penalty area, particularly with a player like Jack Grealish that not only will get into the box, get lots of touches, but gets lots and lots more touches in the box per entry compared to somebody like Erling Haaland that's really quite efficient once they do arrive into the box. We just move on some of the other stuff. So this is the pressures I was on about. So he ranks very highly among centre forward and wingers. He is 7th for pressures applied, so you can see how much work he does do off the ball for the team. You see where these pressures are mostly in the centre of the pitch, on top of the goalkeeper, on the opposition centre-backs, in and around the D here. That's the kind of main cluster of where he applies a lot of pressure. And then this is some of his shooting numbers. I've highlighted ones that are career best for Manchester City. So these are his last 4 seasons, including this one at Manchester City. Obviously, small sample size, something to bear in mind. This is all competition, so only 8.5. When you're thinking about the games he's played for the national team, that brings him up to around 1190s. And we've seen the performances across all those games being very impressive from Erling Haaland. So goals, 1.41, he's top. Shots, 4.35. His highest shots on target, 2.12. Again, highest. Non-penalty XG, 1.07. This is a really important one to remember. No player in the Premier League has ever averaged more than 1 non-penalty XG for an entire season. So if he's able to maintain that, then that would be a really quite a special feat and speaks to the quality and volume of chances that he's getting every single match. And it's also important to bear in mind when we're talking about goals per 90, 1.41. This is somebody that hasn't had a single penalty in the Premier League this season. So though that would only increase those numbers, and you'd expect at some point during the season he is going to get penalties. Whether he gets as many as somebody like Mo Salah got last season is a different story, but to even have a few that are able to chip in, that helps boost that goal total even further. Non-penalty XG per shot, 0.25. Big increase from the previous seasons with 0.21, 0.19. That speaks specifically to the quality of chance he's getting every single shot. So that's a really important one to see going up. Percentage of shots on target slightly down compared to last season with 48.6. Goals per shot 0.32. Huge increase on any of his previous seasons. And I think a really important one to mention here is the distance in yards from the goal. The average shot location 10.5. So he's getting shots much closer to the goal, in the middle of the goal, as we'll see on the shot map a little bit later. That is something that could change quite drastically once the games increase and he gets a much bigger volume of shots that are taken. But at least to start the season, very promising to see them being nice and close to the goals. We'll move on to a little bit later. He also leads the Premier League for goals with 9 and non-penalty goals. Leads the Premier League for shots, 29. For shots on target with 14 and non-penalty XG 7.7. I think Mateta and Enzo Fernandez are the nearest to him for non-penalty XG, and both of them have less than 4. And then I think in Europe's top 5 leagues, when I was looking at that, Mbappe is around 5 non-penalty XG compared to the 7.71 of Erling Haaland. So big lead on anybody else in the Premier League, big lead on anybody else within Europe's top 5 leagues, especially somebody like Mbappe, who, if anybody's watched any games of Real Madrid, can see that he started the season very, very well for them in La Liga. We just move over to this one here. So this is his cumulative XG in goals across the Premier League season. I think it's just an important thing to show, because sometimes you do have players that really do massively overperform their XG. You can see with Erling Haaland, he's really been quite tight, a little bit underperforming here, but then a little bit overperforming there. But not somebody that's started the season with very low XG, scoring loads and loads of goals, and then you're thinking that's not a sustainable performance. He is getting the quality of chances, the quality of shots every single game that makes scoring these many goals quite possible. We just move over to this one here. So this is his shot map from the Premier League via Understat. As you can see in green are all the goals that he scored, these big quality chances. Most of all the red chances here that are missed shots are headers as well, particularly the bigger chances closer to the 6-yard box. That's something to keep in mind when we're talking about improvements for the following season and the following games this season. We've seen in the international break he scored quite a few headers for Norway. We've seen in the Champions League, very cute with his headers. You think about the Napoli one, just lifting it over the goalkeeper. It's definitely in his locker, and I think he can certainly add a fair few goals in the Premier League this season with headers. He is getting the quality of chances already in the opening 7 games, so hopefully that's something across the season we see more goals from him in the Premier League. But as I mentioned earlier, with the chances being close to goal, close to the middle of the goal, in better locations, as you can see with this shot map, rather than somebody that's he's not taking loads of shots outside the box, loads of shots out wide. It's all bang in the middle, in the 6-yard box, high quality chances, and in and around the penalty spot for the most part. This is most shot sequence involvements for Manchester City across the Premier League and the Champions League. Erling Haaland is number 1, as you'd expect. Somebody who can't get my words out. Somebody that's played the most minutes for Manchester City, other than Tijani Reinders, who is in 2nd place. And then you've got Phil Foden, Doku, Bob, players that you would expect to be on this. But as you can see with shots, he's the lead in the way compared to any other player on the team, taking so much volume of shots. And I think this is just encouraging to see that not only when I'm showing you the stats when it comes to the quality of chances he's getting, but then also when you're looking at him being that main guy, taking loads of shots for the team, involved in all those shot ending sequences, is really, really good to see, particularly for somebody that is, if not one of your best player. You need to get him into the kind of positions that they get as many chances as possible, as many as high quality chances as possible, similar to what we're seeing with Bayern Munich, with Harry Kane, with Real Madrid, with Mbappe. This is the player that you build around. This is the player that you depend on to be able to deliver week in, week out, and to start the season. And as we've seen in previous seasons, Haaland is exactly the type of guy that you want to depend on and want to build the team around. If we just move on to this one here. So this is just to look at some of his goals. These first 2 here, 2 assists by Jeremy Doku, I think very encouraging to start the season. Doku does great here to pin Euro, turn off him and play that through ball into Erling Haaland. I think Doku's averaging over a through ball per 90, whereas he normally averages somewhere between 0.1 to 0.2 per 90 across the season. So he's moving inside and playing more of these passes into the penalty box for Erling Haaland, which is great to see. And plays that one through. Erling Haaland comes out. I think he spoke about post-match about the goalkeeper coming out, so he just plays a chip over. And then, to see the variety as well. So not just see lots of assists specifically one way, how different this one is. So this is Jeremy Doku coming in more inside, playing that through ball. And then this one here is Jeremy Doku having to beat a guy, get his way into the box. And then when he doesn't need to beat a guy as well, as you can see here, he can find the space, find the pass into the penalty box for Erling Haaland. If you rolled it all the way back, you would have seen that Erling Haaland starts outside the penalty box, deliberately drifts over to the back post, brings players with him, so he's on these two defenders here, and then you have that space wide open that Jeremy Doku was able to play into. I think that's Phil Foden arriving into that space who could have picked that pass out, and I think that's something that we've seen from Manchester City, doing a good job of arriving into that space for a cutback quite well, but this time it goes all the way through to Erling Haaland, who's able to step across and hit it into the bottom corner, and that is 2 assists from Jeremy Doku. Lovely to see. We move over to this one here. There's a couple of other goals. This is the Napoli one, chip over top from Phil Foden. And then Erling Haaland's able to get a head on it and just lift it over the top. These 2 goals from Monaco. Nice little balls floated into the box. This time from Vardiol. As it bounced, Haaland jumps up and then tips it over the keeper. That's good to see from Vardiol. He's chipping in. You think about the Brentford goal as well, which I think I've got on here and we'll show a bit later. It's good to see different ways that the team is able to contribute to Erling Haaland having chances and having shots. It's not just we need De Bruyne on the pitch at all times to create. We've seen Doku contribute, we've seen Phil contribute, we've seen Vardiol contribute. Seeing all these different players chip in is going to be very important, and also important for this form to be sustainable for Erling Haaland. And then, this one over here, Nico O'Reilly, lovely cross from that left-hand side, floated over, and then Erling Haaland scores that header. So, Champions League, national team, Erling Haaland scoring headers. Just need to mix more of them into the Premier League, but he's shown this season that he's definitely capable of delivering in those moments. And then we just move over to some of these other goals. These first two I just wanted to mention because you have Reinders in this one who plays that 1-2 with Bob, runs into the box, then lays it back for Erling Haaland. And then this one with Marmoush. Marmoush receives on the top of the box. Haaland's the one who makes the run deeper, pulling the back line with him. And then when Marmoush tries to dribble through, ball falls nicely for Erling Haaland, who's able to tap it in. With the Wolves one, Reinders run ahead, cuts it back for Erling Haaland. In these two situations, you've got players, whether it's Haaland in the Brighton example with Marmoush deeper, or it's Reinders making the run with Haaland deeper in the Wolves example. What you're seeing this season is more players that are running into the box to support Haaland, attacking the 6-yard box. You think about in the Burnley match, the opening goal that Phil Foden nearly scores and ends up being an own goal. It's Foden who's running into that 6-yard box to attack that ball, and then Haaland's able to drift back and find space in the middle of the box. So I think across the whole season, to have more players doing that rather than it always being Haaland that has to make that run, and then not having consistently the quality of shooter at the top of the D, the middle of the box to get on the ball. I think you're going to see a lot more from Haaland because of this, because he's going to be the guy in the middle of the box taking a shot, and then also he's in a great position in the 6-yard box to jump on loose balls and tap them home. And then these last two here, just to show the kind of variety of goals that Erling Haaland has scored this season, the ball over the top from Josko Vardiol. He's able to keep his body so well between the ball and the defender. If you watch it back, you see the way he hunches his shoulders over, keeps himself on top of the ball, makes sure his body between when it bounces one way, when it bounces inside, shifts his body around. And then, as he mentioned post-match, loves a near-post finish with his left foot, and scores that one against Brentford. Very, very much that kind of typical centre forward play to kind of just muscle their way through the box and score. And then on the other side, you look at the goal against Arsenal to score that goal in transition. Doku does ever so well, finds Tijani Reinders, who is able to show his ability to carry the ball over long distances that the team just didn't really have last season. Lays it off nicely for Erling Haaland. And what you'll notice in this goal, and hopefully you can remember from previous seasons, you'll see in future goals, he did this in one of the most recent matches for Norway with the goal he scored, is he takes a touch with his left foot. Like, defenders will know they want to close off the left foot. Goalkeepers will know they want to be prepared for that left foot shot. And what Erling Haaland does this and has done in previous goals and I expect will be doing in future goals is he takes the touch with his left foot to set that up, to have that angle ready with the goalkeeper, with the defender trying to close it off. And then he only uses his right foot when he pulls it across to take that shot, going across the keeper, across Raya, and then makes that 1-0 for Manchester City. So the kind of variety there, the plays that are arriving into the box, Jeremy Doku a bit earlier, kind of floated balls, Nico O'Reilly, Josko Vardiol, Phil Foden, and then some of the kind of individual play from Erling Haaland using his ability in transition and creating kind of transition moments like in the Brentford match with that ball over the top from Josko Vardiol. I think that's the kind of thing to add on to everything I've spoken about. Underlying numbers, the number of shots he gets, the quality of chances, but then also to see the variety of goals he's scoring. It's not that you're trying to shut off one specific way that Erling Haaland can hurt you, and then by cutting that off, he's not able to score a lot of goals. You think some strikers are built to really perform in transition, and then once you kill that transition that the team can't do anymore within a game, you then shut off the supply to that striker and they're not as effective. With Erling Haaland, it doesn't matter what type of opposition that we play. It doesn't matter the way City are going to play, the way that the opposition are going to defend. He has different ways that he can hurt you, that he can score goals. So yeah, that kind of brings me to the end of the video. The last kind of thing I wanted to mention is to bear in mind the players that are to come back. So you look at the crosses from Nico O'Reilly. Itanori is definitely capable of doing that as well. From that left-hand side, somebody to come back from injury. You think about Omar Marmoush. I mentioned him with the Brighton goal, having that additional shooter that can pull players away from Erling Haaland, create more space for him, as well as being a threat to score himself. That's going to be a big benefit to the team once he comes back. Somebody that can also make lots of great runs in behind and runs ahead of Erling Haaland into the 6-yard box. So that'd be great for Marmoush to come back. And then also Cherki, who is this kind of creative force, somebody that is who I would say is certainly the best creator in France the last season. Somebody that's two-footed, can supply from free kicks, from corners, from open play with both foot, any sort of angle. He's able to create chances, and we've not really seen any of that this season with his injury. That's somebody that's going to come back, add more creativity to the side, add more looks, more angles, more passes into the penalty area, more chances for Erling Haaland, and just add kind of more variety of options that are looking to supply him with chances. So we're not just looking for, as brilliant as Phil Foden has been, or Jeremy Doku, we're not just looking for one of those guys to be the kind of main force creatively. We're looking at a team with so many different players on there that can provide chances for Erling Haaland. That one game it could be Josko Vardio, like it was against Brentford. One game it could be Phil Foden, like we saw against Napoli. Another game it might be Nico O'Reilly. It might be Cherki, and so on. That's exactly what you want to see going into the season. So very encouraging signs. Obviously, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, looking at City so far, this is not the best version of them. They're not the best version they'll be this season, or this kind of rebuilt team will become. Obviously, we'll have players in the summer, but not the kind of final version of what they will be. But the volume and quality of chances they're creating for Erling Haaland, as well as his form, the variety of ways he can hurt teams, his leadership, the way he carries himself on the pitch, the kind of energy, pressure in the opposition, the way he smiles going into challenges, loves to challenge these defenders with physical battles. You think about the way he just ran into Van Heck and showed him that it's going to be a battle all game long, as well as with Van der Berg against Brentford. I think, yeah, really good to see from Erling Haaland. And as I said at the top of the video, I think this is the new version of Erling Haaland, not a vein of form from him. And over the next few games, over the next couple of months, we'll definitely see that, in my opinion, play out. If there's anything you think I've missed out in this video, please let me know down below. Or jump in the comments so we can have that discussion and go back and forth, things I may have missed, things you want to mention, and so on. Make sure you like the video to help support the channel, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video. Otherwise, we'll be back with plenty more content this week.